Greetings, my peeps, and welcome to the All Things Basketball Podcast with your boy GD. In this episode, we will finish up the mid-March recap, talking about some fines that were levied and suspensions as well as Pau Gasol, his jersey being retired in LA. Also talk about Dame Lillard and his loyalty to Portland. We'll discuss that. Talk about JJ Redick and the discussion he had with Kendrick Perkins on stat padding and so forth. Also, Women's Month, so there was a broadcast dedicated to that. So we'll talk about that. The passing of a longtime communications director, and also March Madness. So we'll cover it all. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, guys, so we already covered, we're doing our kind of 2-week mid-March recap of all that's going on in the NBA. We covered so far the players of the week for week 20 and 21. We talked about the Ja Morant situation and all that's surrounded around that. We talked injury news, talked about player signings, and some milestones that were achieved by different players and one coach. And then now we're going to talk about the fines, Pau Gasol. We'll talk about Dame Lillard. Again, I wanted to circle back to that, as well as talk a little JJ Redick as well. We'll also cover all women's broadcast that was done in honor of International Women's Month, and then talk a little NCAA right quick. So, all right, guys, so let's begin. Let's start with fines that were levied as well as suspensions. So, Fred VanVleet of the Toronto Raptors fined $30,000 for criticizing officials after a loss to the LA Clippers. I listened to it, man. I tell you what, I have absolutely zero issue with what Fred VanVleet had to say. The officiating lately in the NBA has really, it's been problematic, guys. I saw things as small as Julius Randle getting a tech for simply questioning a ref's call. I seen him get teed up for that. Thankfully, he didn't go any further where he got ejected. He was able to calm himself down. I saw where Jordan Poole of the Warriors, where he tossed the ball back to the ref and got a tech for that. I've just seen it far too often. In this case here, VanVleet levied these offenses against Ben Taylor, a ref who's already given him 3 techs for the year so far. And in the 4th game where he was part of the officiating team, he got another tech. So that's 4 of his 8 techs connected to one ref. That's not good, guys. So I think the NBA, when season's done, needs to really address that issue. That is an issue, guys, because as VanVleet said, they come to the games to enjoy the players, not for the rest. Nobody comes to the game and say, I want to hear so-and-so call a good game. No, they come to see the players on the court. So NBA, Adam Silver, you're going to have to deal with this ref situation, because they're really getting ticky-tacky with some of these calls, especially the technical fouls. So that's one fine. Marcus Smart of the Boston Celtics, a guy who's, always in the mix when it comes to, altercations and so forth, $25,000. And this is for an altercation with Trae Young in a game that his team actually won over Atlanta. But this happened with about a minute 25 left in the game, where he and Trae Young went face to face, and then ends up rolling on the floor and so forth. So Marcus Smart is a guy who has no back down in him. So Trae picked the right one that day, but Marcus Smart nonetheless, given his history, he did get ejected in that game, but he also catches now a $25,000 fine from the league. So that's that. And then we have Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks is suspended 1 game without pay for receiving his 16th technical foul. And now it's a case where now he's up to 16 with each 2 additional technical fouls that he gets called for, he'll miss a game. So, and this actually happened in the loss against Denver. That game up at Denver, the one where, prompted Ja Morant to do what he did. So he ended up missing the game after, which was at the LA Clippers. So, and then also a week later, on March 9th, he goes face to face with Draymond Green in their blowout win over the Golden State Warriors. So Dillon Brooks, man, and he has the nerve to question Draymond Green and what he's done in the NBA, which, Dillon, slow your roll, because you can't even hold a candle to what Draymond has accomplished. Draymond can speak for himself. He got his own podcast. He can speak for himself. But you throw up Draymond's resume against yours, and it doesn't even compare, man. Everyone knows that he's the emotional leader of that Golden State Warriors championship ball clubs. Everyone knows that. So for you to even question the man is out of bounds. And Dillon Brooks actually used to be a very good player. He used to be a guy who can, you could count on for scoring and so forth. He's shooting horribly. He's now this extracurricular guy who's mouthy now. We all know about him going back and forth with Shannon Sharp, in fact. So it happened there. You call Shannon Sharp a blogger. By the way, he does not have a blog. He's actually a TV personality. By the way, he also called Draymond Green a blogger. No, he just happens to have his own podcast. So Dillon Brooks, I don't know what he's trying to do. He's trying to be a low rent Dennis Rodman, but the only difference is Dennis Rodman had skill. He was a winner, and and he's a Hall of Fame player as of now. Dillon Brooks, I don't think he even come near that. So he's just making a name for himself, so forth. What it leads to, who knows? But right now, they need you to play, man, because Memphis Grizzlies are missing some guys. So they need you to step up and stop with all this extracurricular stuff. So I'm just saying. So that's the deal with the fines and suspensions and so forth. So let's talk Pau Gasol, shall we? Pau Gasol had his number 16 jersey for the LA Lakers retired on March 5th against the Golden State Warriors, the same day that Steph Curry returned back to the lineup. And it was an emotional ceremony, of course, because he was honored there without his teammate Kobe Bryant, who passed away back in 2020. So, bittersweet day. But Kobe Bryant actually predicted this day will come. He was asked while he was at the Oscars, where he got a Oscar for his documentary. He was asked about that, and he said, one day Pau Gasol jersey will hang in the Raptors next to mine. And he was so true. So, Pau Gasol, let's look at his career. Oh, by the way, he's a 2023 Naismith Hall of Fame finalist, by the way. So, 18 years he played in the league, played in over 1,200 games, averaged 17 points per game, 9.2 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 1.6 blocks, guys, along with shooting 50.7% from the field, so he makes half of his shots. From three, he was able to be a stretch 4 and 5 out there, shooting 36.8% from three and 75.3% from the free throw line. He was drafted in the first round. He was the 3rd pick overall. He was actually drafted, guys. This was in 2001 draft. He was actually drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, but traded on draft day along with Brevin Knight and Lorenzen Tate, the late Lorenzen Tate, to Memphis for Sharif Abdul-Rahim and Jamal Tinsley. So he was immediately dealt to the Memphis Grizzlies. We're talking about Memphis Grizzlies a lot here. He was traded after 7 seasons there. In those 7 seasons, he made 1 All-Star game. And he was traded to L.A. in a big package there. Package which included actually his brother Mark going to Memphis, where he forged a fine career there. So he ends up spending 7 years with the Lakers. This was post Shaq was gone now, so Kobe needed that other guy next to him so he can get a few chips himself, which he did. So he spent 7 years there, 3 All-Star appearances while there. Then he ends up, after his contract's done, signing with the Chicago Bulls for 2 seasons. It is 2 seasons there. He made 2 All-Star games. Then he moves on to San Antonio for 2.5 years. And then he goes to Milwaukee, where he plays 3 games there. He last signs with the Portland Trail Blazers, but he never plays a game for them because of a foot injury he has. He's eventually waived, and he announces his retirement in October 5th of 2021. But he hadn't played a game. His last game was played in actually 2019, so thus making him eligible for the Hall of Fame. And then there's his international resume. That's pretty substantial as well. His time playing with the Spain team, the Spanish team there. So a lot of success there. So in essence, 6 All-Star appearances for him, 4 times All-NBA, a 2-time champion, and he was a Rookie of the Year as well. So Pau Gasol with excellent credentials, thus worthy of Hall of Fame consideration. So Pau Gasol, we salute you, and hopefully, actually they'll be announcing it next month who makes the Hall of Fame. So hopefully your name will get called. So, all right, so that's what went on with Pau Gasol. Let's talk, speaking of Portland, let's talk about Dame Lillard. I talked about this previous episode in my February recap, but I had to circle around to it again because of 2 things. A recent article that Sean Powell wrote that actually points to the issue that Dame Lillard makes when he appears on the Old Man and the Three podcast. That's the podcast with JJ Redick. So he talks about how the league has changed. It's more ring driven now. A lot of that is media motivated, also social media motivated as well. So, and then also, even on top of that, you got these clowns on social media want to downplay and poo-poo guys who didn't get a ring and so forth. So, and the media doesn't, help matters either. And then that permeates into players' minds. So you got a guy like, for instance, Kevin Durant. He leaves his situation in Oklahoma City to join up with Golden State so he could get a few rings there. But now they want to discredit those rings because he joined a fortified team over there. And now everybody says, now you got to get your own ring and so forth. So, and actually, Dame kind of alluded to that in this podcast episode with JJ Redick. So, again, I applaud the man for, his loyalty to one organization. I give him credit for that. But the article that Sean Powell writes flies in the face of it. It's basically saying that the pressure's on him to, get a ring. I don't put the pressure on him, to be honest with you. I put the onus more on the Portland front office. It's upon them to build a winner around Dame Lillard. If they don't like that, then that's the way it has to be. I don't believe they want to trade him. Of course they don't want to trade him. They just paid the man. They just gave him an extension. So I just think it's a situation where it is what it is. And for us, not saying us, and what you'll never hear on this podcast, you'll never hear any GOAT talk from me, because I'm not here to declare who's the GOAT, who's the GOAT. You won't hear that on this podcast. No, you won't hear it. Now, there are players within a certain time period that I'll say was the best in that time period. But an overall GOAT, I can't do it because situations has changed over the years. You went from an 8-team league now to a 16-team league. Now you got a 30-team league. So those situations there change. Also, you have the event of, better weight training, so forth. You have a lot of different circumstances. You're now in the age of social media, so that plays a part and parcel in a player's mindset. It shouldn't, but it does. So I'm not here to declare a GOAT. So you won't hear that on here, and you won't hear me with a top 10 or 25 list of players who haven't won rings. You won't hear that here, because if you're a great player, you're a great player. The eye test will tell the tale. So, Dominique Wilkins, great player. Great player. Vince Carter, great player. Charles Barkley, when he played, absolutely great player. John Stockton, great player. Patrick Ewing, great player. Karl Malone, great player. Did they any of them get rings? No. That doesn't take away from what they did on that court. That's for sure. So, so I'm not here to cast any type of aspersions. Oh, and Allen Iverson, of course, great player as well. But I'm not here to cast any sort of I'm not counting them short because of what they didn't do. I just counting what they did, and they were fantastic players. So, with that said, and then also Dame Lillard has an ally in Bill Walton. Bill Walton absolutely loved Dame Lillard. He applauds him. Remember, Bill Walton himself is the last player to win a championship in the city of Portland. So he empathizes with Dame, and he is one of his biggest fans, that's for sure. And he had a lot of great things to say about Dame. So he definitely has an ally of Bill Walton. Everybody knows Bill Walton as this quirky sort of analyst now who has this alternate broadcast on the NBA.com. But Bill Walton in his day, when he was healthy, he was as transcendent a center as you see in the NBA. And you see what you see Nikola Jokic doing, Bill Walton kind of set the standard for the passing center, that's for sure. So, but Bill Walton definitely a fan of Dame Lillard, and I'm a fan as well. The man is tremendous. I mean, what he's able to do on the basketball court is awe-inspiring. So, again, I totally get what he's saying. It's about the journey. It should be about the journey in terms of basketball, not the ring counting that we do and so forth. So, Dame Lillard, much respect to you, that's for sure. So again, I wanted to address that once again. Now since he was on this man's podcast, let's talk about him. JJ Redick. JJ Redick, he's now on TV. He's appears on First Take. He's also does broadcasts also on ESPN. He does it with Ryan Ruocco and so forth. So JJ goes at it with Kendrick Perkins on First Take about Nikola Jokic and this whole notion of stat padding, as well as his MVP aspirations, and pretty much cried racism as far as folks who doesn't see Nikola Jokic for who he is. So and thinks that the MVP voting will reflect that. First of all, the man has won it twice already, so I don't see how you can even launch that. But I will agree with him on the Nikola Jokic and this whole ridiculous notion of stat padding that Kendrick Perkins brought up. Think about this, guys. He has a 28-game win streak in games in which he has a triple-double. 24-0 this season thus far, and if you count the previous season, he had 4 games towards the end where he had triple-doubles and the team won. So we're talking a 28-game win streak, guys. And for his career, he has a 82% win percentage. In fact, he's right at 100 games of triple doubles, where he's at 82 and 18. So the only 2 players with averages above his is Draymond Green, who's 30 and 1, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think he's somewhere at 87%, but he has, I think, fewer than 30. I think he has about 33 games in which I think he's won 28 of the 33. So those are only 2 guys with higher percentages than Nikola Jokic. So, and this MVP race is going to be a tight one. It's going to be a tight one. I think Joel Embiid really has an opportunity here. I understand. I get what Jokic is doing, especially with the top team in the West. But a lot of people will poo-poo that and say they'll point to the Ja Morant situation, why they're not up there. They'll point to the Lakers not being what they are. They'll talk about the kind of confusion that's going on with the Clippers and just say, they just took advantage of a weak West. So I think the MVP race will be very interesting between him and Joel Embiid. And let us not forget Giannis Antetokounmpo. He needs to be in that discussion as well. So, but JJ Redick, quite a presence on ESPN between him calling those games, him being on First Take, and then also when he went against old head Chris Russo, of course, of Mike and the Mad Dog, where he actually downplayed Larry Bird as a three-point shooter. And let's get this out the way. When Larry Bird first came in the league, they had just introduced the three-point shot, by the way. So it was early in its infancy. So the onus back then is not what it is today in terms of three-point shooting. So with that said, if Larry Bird was playing in today's NBA, it'd be a no-brainer. He'd be one of the best three-point shooters ever to play the game. No question about it. So, so JJ, I can't flow with you on that one. So, so that's that. And also on the case of stat padding, Giannis actually had a rebound taken away from him in a game where he was close to a triple-double. He must have knew it. He missed the shot on purpose against Washington, and the league rescinded the rebound, so he was just short of a triple-double. So now that's stat padding, guys. So just a little brief example of that. So nonetheless, so that's the thing with JJ Redick I wanted to address. Now, next bit of news. On March 8th, in the Dallas game versus the New Orleans Pelicans, in which the Pelicans won 113-106, ESPN had an all-female broadcast team. Beth Mowins, who we know from college basketball, she calls a lot of the women's games there. Tremendous talent. So she was on play-by-play along with Doris Burke. We all know Doris Burke and the work she's done, the color commentary she's done for the NBA for quite a few years now. So both of them was in the booth. And Cassidy Hubbard, she was the sideline reporter for that game as well. Cassidy Hubbard, she does sideline reporting very well. And then they had a pregame panel with, of course, Malika Andrews being the studio host, and she was joined by Chanae. I always get this name. Awumake. Okay. Chanae Awumake. She was on the panel, as well as Ramona Shelburne, Monica McNutt, who's a rising star as well. She does she's in studio for Nick's pre and post game there, as well as she's called some games on. She's done analyst work on radio for the Knicks. Again, a rising star. And Becky Hammond, who was just hired by ESPN to do analyst work. She was amongst that panel as well for that game. So, and then not to mention the women behind the scenes. So, kudos to ESPN for having such a day with such talent as that. So that's that bit of news. Then we have sad news. David Benner, longtime Indiana Pacers communications director. He was there for 28 years. He passed away on March 1st. And he passed away at the age of 67. David Benner, who Reggie Miller was actually, they were so very close. In fact, part of his pregame stuff, he would get in the face of David Benner and say all these crazy things. So, so David Benner, he was there. He's been their PR person for the past 28 years. In those years, he's had to do PR for their 6 Eastern Conference Finals appearances, a Finals appearance as well, and as individual players, he's had to do PR work for Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and Executive of the Year. So, before he joined the Indiana Pacer organization, he previously worked as a sports commentator for the Indianapolis Star, and he retired after the 2021-22 season. So, and then a week later, after David's passing, he was awarded the Brian McIntyre Trophy. And this is the Splaver McHugh Tribute to Excellence Award. This is given by the NBA Public Relations Directors Association. And this award is given to most outstanding, PR person. So he was given this award. And Mark Paver, he was a PR director for the Washington Bullets for a number of years, and then Howie McHugh was a long-time Boston Celtics PR director there as well. So the award is named in their honor. So, and David Benner gets this award, although after he has passed. So David Benner, we salute you in all that you've done in the NBA for those 28 years with the Pacers, and we say that you rest in peace. So, all right, and then the last bit of news: March Madness, guys. It starts Thursday, March 16th, and your top seeds are the Houston Cougars, the Alabama Crimson Tide, Purdue Boilermakers, and the defending champs, the Kansas Jayhawks. So those are your top seeds there. But you also got other teams that's willing to make their statements. The Arizona Wildcats, UCLA Bruins, the UConn Huskies, Texas Longhorns, Marquette, they'll have something to say about it. And of course, Duke, you always cannot count out Duke, especially in the post Mike Krzyzewski era. So, a number of players with NBA aspirations will be in these tournaments here. Brandon Miller, the freshman out of Alabama, he's a swing man, in a bit of trouble there, as well as they have kind of linked him with a capital murder of Darius Miles. That's still a situation in flux, so we'll see what happens there. So much so he has to carry extra security with him, unfortunately. So, and then you have Jarace Walker of the Houston Cougars there. He's a freshman as well, power forward for that team. Grady Dick for the freshman for the Kansas Jayhawks, who's an outstanding shooter, swingman there. So you keep an eye out for a kid like him. Also, you have Chris Murray, the brother of Keegan Murray, who's in the NBA playing for the Sacramento Kings. He is a forward, junior, in fact, so we'll see if he declares. You got the backcourt in Arkansas of Nick Smith Jr. and Anthony Black. That's a backcourt to keep an eye on in these tournaments here. Cason Wallace, a freshman as well, a freshman point guard, kind of in the likes of a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker, Tyler Hero, Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly, those guys coming out of that program. He's kind of in that vein. Maybe not the shooter that a few of them are, but definitely kind of like a point guard, but probably a combo guard. We'll see what happens with that freshman there. And then a big man to keep an eye out on, Zach Edey, and he's from the Purdue Boilermakers, juniors. He's a center at 7'4", so quite tall nonetheless, and able to do damage inside. So definitely keep an eye out for that junior as well. So the tournament getting underway, guys. I'm sure everybody done filled out their brackets and so forth, and we'll see what happens there. So should be an exciting tournament. So we'll see how things transpire and so forth. So should be interesting. All right, guys. So that is going to do it for this episode here. Again, might have to take a little bit more time off. Still dealing with some issues here myself personally. So a few health and otherwise. So just trying to get things under wraps and in good shape in that regard. So, all right, guys. So that's going to do it for now. Again, I remind you to write reviews. Please visit my website, allthingsbasketballwithgd.com. You can write reviews there. Also, Apple Podcasts, I'm on there. I'm on, the major podcast platforms, but Apple, you can leave your review there, that's for sure. Podchaser, I believe you can leave reviews there as well. And also on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel there, All Things Basketball GD, where I have my videos there and so forth. So you can please like the videos and then comment as well. All right, guys. So that's going to do it for now. And as always, we will talk soon. Take care. So, my peeps, if you like what you're listening to, you can go to my website, www.allthingsbasketballwithgd.com. You can also email me at thatsportsdudegd@gmail.com. To support this podcast, you can go to my PayPal, and that email is thatsportsdudegd@gmail.com. Also on my Anchor page, I have a support button there that you can also use to help the podcast. I'm on all the major platforms like Anchor, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Amazon, SoundCloud, YouTube, Castbox, Radio Public, Podchaser, just to name a few. And also you can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Clubhouse, and Fanbase. So, once again, I thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. And take care and be safe.